Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this webinar on the new targeting module of Maxine. This is the second webinar this year about new features and functions about Maxine. So the idea is that we will provide you with insight about our solution. Normally, every month we will plan a new webinar to inform you about what are the new features in Maxine. So don't hesitate to ask your question during the session. So for this, you can use the GoToWebinar application directly. So write the question down, and then we'll be doing our best to answer all of them. If we miss any question, don't hesitate to send us by email anyway. Once the webinar is over, you will be redirected to a survey page. So that is very important for us. So let us know your thoughts about this webinar, the next subject that you want us to cover, etc., etc. So let's start. For today's session, Stéphane, Riku, and myself, Etienne, will be your hosts. And then I will be starting with the targeting principle and how using targeting will help you to address your customer. And then Stéphane will go through the Maxine product to demo the new model. Okay. Quick note about event information and logistics. So you will receive a copy of this deck. This webinar is recorded, so you will be able to review it or to send it to your colleagues if needed. So as I said, just post your question directly in the GoToWebinar application. So let's start, really. So first question for this webinar is why personalization matters. Obviously, when we're talking about targeting, the idea behind that is to do personalization, is to address differently your customers. So if we, from a customer point of view, from a customer standpoint, there are many reasons why they will pledge allegiance to a brand that delivers personalization. So basically, it leads to a customer expecting a brand to know them, their needs and wants. Why? Because they don't want to receive irrelevant offers. And I'm not talking only about receiving offers on diapers when you don't have children. It's much more than that. It's really receiving offers that may interest you, depending on your profile and your behavior. When we talk about brands, obviously the value of personalization is quite simple. Revenue. We're always talking about revenue. So if you want to drive customer acquisition, loyalty, and lifetime value to deliver a top-line revenue growth, then personalization matters. In a recent study, the Harvard Business Review white paper outlined the revenue upside. So personalization can deliver 5 to 8 times the ROI on marketing spend and lift sales by 10% or more. So really, having offers personalized help brands to make more revenue because when the offers are more relevant, obviously customers are more likely to use them. Okay. What is targeting, which is the next question, and what are the goals of targeting? So first, if we're talking about targeting definition, so target market is the specific group of people you want to reach with your marketing message. Quite obvious, but just want to repeat it. They are the people. The target is a group of people who are most likely to buy your product or services, and they are united by some common characteristic, like demographics and behaviors. For this webinar, we'll focus on behaviors and KPIs that Maxine handles, obviously. We will see in detail the levels, criteria, and KPIs that we can use to define such targets. later on this webinar, and Stefan will demo it. So the more clearly you define your target group, the better you can understand how and where to reach your best prospects. So you can start with broad categories like millennials or single dads, but you need to get much more detailed to achieve the best possible conversion rates. You may also start with small targets to evaluate the relevance of your offers. Well, test an offer on a small group, for instance, before enlarging the scale to more people or or larger targets, let's say. Then creating a new marketing campaign without the capability to evaluate its size will probably make this campaign to fail. So obviously, you need to know what is the size of the target before launching an offer. So the tricky part here is that you need to combine address, deliver your messages with the data and intel you gather from your consumer. Speaking of intelligence, you already have many at your disposal in your IT environment and especially in Maxing. So you know the customer profile, you know the transaction history, you know the interactions. So I'm talking here about mobile application usage, events that you send to Maxing when you do the integration part of the solution. So if you want to know who has subscribed to the newsletter in the last 15 days, so that's the kind of information you can use also in Maxing. So finally, the size matters. So having the capability to evaluate the size of the targets in real time easily will be a huge advantage and will be time saver for your brand and company. Okay. Talking about sample targets that can be useful in the retail business. So targets can be created using so many different type of criteria, attributes related to customer data, journeys, behavior can be used. So, and you can combine them with a time period. That time period can be dynamic. I mean, the date of the target compute can be an offset of days, months, years, etc. So for instance, you can create a target for the 30 years old gold members whom birthday is in the next week, for instance. You may also create targets for sofa buyers last month or last week because you want to propose offers on living room accessories like curtains or pillows or things like that. Another example can be to create a target in case you need to know who bought the defective product that you need to recall. Having the transaction history in the loyalty program is key in that sense because you know who bought a specific defective product, and then you can create a target for that, and then do a specific communication for this product recall. And the interesting thing about the target module in Maxing is that the target can be designed and scheduled without involving the IT members. So this means that the marketing team will be able to define the target the same way they define the offers. So that will be a part of the demo from Stefan. So you are defining the target, the criteria you want directly within the Maxing application. Okay. Hope this is clear for this introduction. So we will then move to the demo part. And for this, let me introduce you to Stefan.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for attending this session. And thank you, Etienne. So let's go through the demo for this new targeting module that we have implemented within the solution. So what's the plan for this demo? You will see it will be quite simple. We'll use the criteria in order to define the target. So The thing is that we will create live a new target on a Maxing demo instance. So like I said, we will use a combination of criteria, excuse me, actions in order to trigger an offer for a specific target. So I will also demonstrate how to estimate the size of this target and how to schedule the compute of this target. Because obviously, if you have a way to estimate the size of the target as you are designing it, you will save a huge amount of time and will be efficient. And like we said before, that's not required to involve the IT team to go through that process of compute and how to estimate the size. So the marketing people can completely do this by themselves and as they are designing the offer. So I will go through the screen of Maxing solution. So for the ones in this room who already know the software, you will go basically through the setup of the offers in order to design the offer. That's what I will do. And in order to do that, we will start with a blank one. So I will just do in my target container, I will just use a blank one like this. We will start from scratch and we will be able to discover together what are the tools that you can use and combine in order to design a target. So everything starts with the input, and this input is obviously a target. Just a quick note here. You will see that between the parentheses we have beta, which is on the screen. This will disappear in the next weeks. Just mentioning this because we are adding new mechanics and new criteria in the solution as we are improving the targeting module. Okay, so once I have clicked on the target, I have now available on the left side of the screen what I call the categories. And again, for the ones who know how to design an offer in Maxing, the icons are blue in order to distinguish them from the actions. And we have 3 different categories, which are loyalty, transaction, and information. So I will go, let's try to discover the ones related to loyalty. And you'll see that we have 3 of them that are related to what we call the data structures for the consumers. I mean that we have the account, customer, and card category that we can use. And let's take a look, for instance, at what we can do with the customers. So once I will click here, I will show you what we have behind the scenes. So basically, when you will select a category or a criteria, you will have on the right side of the screen all the filters and actions that you can use related to that criteria. So for instance, here I can design a target that will focus only on, let's say, personal or employee accounts, and I will select one, and with a specific tax status or not, so deactivated or activated, and you will see that mainly on all the criteria, you will have an additional filter that will focus on the dates. We talked about the dates earlier in this webinar, and we stated that those dates can be dynamic. That means that, for instance, here I can use the creation date of this customer, and I can use the inequality conditions equal to, greater than, and so on. I can also use here is between in order to select a period, but I can also use what we call the related and dynamic dates. For instance, if I select here a month, I will be able to state if I want the personal customers created last month, or by selecting one is here, or 2 months ago, and so on. And you will have this capability to do that with month before and month after. So that's quite cool because depending on the scheduling that you will set for the targets, and we will see that in a few minutes, you will be able to to have a compute that is done relatively to the date when the target was computed. So for instance, I can schedule this target in order to retrieve the accounts that were created in February, and because obviously we are in March. So that's very convenient and a very easy way to set related dates. Let's continue with the other criteria that are available in loyalty. Some I guess that will interest most of you are the counters. I know that a lot of people are using counters and are very interested in tracking and having the capability to have some KPIs calculated automatically by Maxim. So in this particular environment, you can use counters. I have some available, which are the loyalty points. I think that most of you knows them. You can also have some KPIs that are computing how many euros or how many your customers are spending in stores, how many visits, and so on. So let's take one for instance, and I will have the capability to set a criteria based upon the content of this counter. And as I said earlier, you will have the capability to add a filter on the date. And on this date, you will see it's a current value, so that will compare the content of the counter when the target will be computed. Or you can state that you want this value of the counter with a specific value over last X month or X days. That's quite convenient also in order to gather maybe or to target some people with a value of a counter that has reached an amount of, let's say, 100 last week, for instance, or last month. If we continue to take a look at the categories, you have the ones related to the transactions. That's something that is also very easy and convenient to use, because each time you have transactions that are handled by Maxim, everything is linearized and is computed in the database. So you will have the capability to create your targets based upon the content of the basket, based upon the products they are buying, if they have triggered an offer before, and based also on the frequency, so how many times consumers are coming in my shop. And you can also have some KPIs based on the location. So if my consumers are buying in their preferred store or into a group of stores and so on. Let's take a look at this mechanic around the basket. It's a very interesting one. You have the capability to set your condition on the total spent, at the fact that the consumer has come at once in your shop, or based upon the number of visits or number of transactions. So here, if I let the selection on total spent, I can use some combination, less, exactly or less, exactly, between. So here you just have to set the value of the basket that you want to target and select. And you also have, as you can see here, the combination of a selection on date and also a selection on the location itself. So that means that you will be able to target people that have spent, let's say, between 100 and 150 euros, for instance, on a specific day or during a month, during a year. So you see, we continue to use here the notion of relative dates. It could be also, if I want to compare this with the last month, for instance, last month values of the baskets. And I can also filter this on any store or only on the store that is attached to the consumer. Okay, let's continue with the information, which are quite basic, and that's the reason you still continue to see beta, but we will have more criteria to use on the information, because at this very moment, you can do the selections based on the birthday or based on the age of the consumers. We will have more in the near future. what I suggest is that we go through an example of a target that I created for you today. And this one is, you see, quite easy to get. So this is a target that will do the selection on criteria based on loyalty, transaction, and information. So I try to combine most of them in order to give you at a glance a view of what we can do with the solution. So in that case, I will have here the customer birthday criteria that has been used. And in that case, I will select the consumers that are with a birthday that is in February. I use this one in order to show you how to use the related dates. As we are in March, if I select here a month ago equal to 1, obviously, that will target the birthdays of February. Second criteria is based on the age, and I will select the ones that are older or equal to 30 years old. And then criteria based on the transactions, which is here the basket itself. I am selecting here the total spend that has to be more than 100 euros during which month? It's the February 2020, and where it's into any store. So here you see I have a combination of the value of the basket, where, and also when. So quite logical, I would say. And what we do this target is to select the members, and those members of this target will be eligible to an offer, and this offer will give them once 5% discount. So that's quite generous, I guess. So now that we have saw the definition of the target and how it is linked to an offer, let's take a look at the size of this target. And I have prepared something that is not already computed in order to do this together. So I will save and estimate the target. So the system live will do the compute and will do the selection for me, and will do the qualification of the members of this population. And now you can see that this offer, we'll just zoom in a little bit, this offer this target is targeting 100 people. And on this 100 people, I have 101, which just with birthday is in February, 104, which are older than 30 years, and 100 of them have spent 100 euros in my stores. So that with the intersection of this three criteria, that gives me a value of 100 people into this target. The planning for this, because once you have a view and you can see the size of the target, you will have obviously to plan this in the system, in the maxing system. You have many capabilities to do that and possibilities. You can do this every X minute, hours, days, months, and weeks. So we have nothing very specific here. It's all the criteria that you can see into a scheduling software. So we try to do this quite simple for the marketing user to use it. So you just have to select your period every let's say every day, and then you will have to set the first execution of your target. That's a very important point because that gives you some flexibility to create your target and maybe run it only next week or next month. So that's a lot of flexibility that we are bringing here with this settings into the planification. You can also set some limits in order to stop this compute, and you will set here how many times you want to repeat this compute. So once the target has been run, it will be inserted into the maxing system, and then every time you will have here a customer that will shop, and if he is member of this target, he will get once 5% discount. We can also attach to this target what we call events, and it's quite the same logic, except that when you will use an event, every time your target is computed, the offer or the communication or the action attached to this target will be fired for every member of your target. So two ways to attach a target to something in Maxing. The first one is the offer that we just saw, and you can also use what we call events in order to fire an event to a dedicated population. We can think about maybe sending a newsletter, create a coupon and deliver it to a specific population, for instance. Okay, so I think it's almost time to wrap up. So I will go back to my presentation. And here it is. So basically, what are the benefits that we saw together during the session? A customer is targeted. The brand rewards him in a more accurate way because we could see that we have many different levers and different criteria we can use and type of compute that we can do. That's a more relevant way. That's what we wanted to insist on with Etienne, is that you will be able to create very specific targets, and they are relevant targets because they are based on KPIs and values that Maxing handles, basically because we are the, let's say, the master of the transactions. This will definitely enforce the intimacy between the brand and the consumers by mixing the criteria and having this richness that we tried to demonstrate today. Definitely, you will have many levers to use in order to create targets. Depending on the customer response to a targeted offer, definitely you will be able to appreciate and evaluate the impact of your campaigns, and definitely it will be more precise, and you will get also, don't forget about this, it will be also a way to get some insight from the population, so from your consumers, and gives you like this the way to be more efficient in the way you will communicate with your consumers. Okay, so we will try to see if we have some questions from the audience today. I hope we have some.
Yes, so we have some questions, so let me check that. The first one I've seen is the following. Yeah, interesting. Can I import in Maxing targets coming from another system?
Yes, that's a very good question, because we saw that we could compute the targets, but yes, we have some what we call standard interfaces that will allow you to import targets that were maybe computed by other softwares. Yes.
Next one is, can I export a target computed in Maxing? So basically, it's the reverse question. So yeah, can we export then a target computed in Maxing?
Yes, the same way, by using what we call the standard interfaces, and because the solution is a full API solution, we also have some web services, I would say dedicated services, that will help you to query the targets and to export them into a CSV file, and then can be inputted into any other process that you would like to use.
Okay, next one is about multiple targets. So basically, can we schedule or run multiple targets? I mean, or perhaps is there any limit in number of targets, or can we have probably so a customer can be a member of several targets?
Yeah, okay. So what we saw today, that I have created one target, but you can create multiple ones. They will be stored in the system, and depending on the schedule, they will be run one after the other. And definitely, a consumer can be part of more than one target, and we have no limitations regarding the number of targets. You just have to be, let's say, not too much creative, or be quite relevant in what you do in order to create the most accurate targets, I would say, in the best way in the system.
Thank you. Next one. Is it possible to target using email information such as email domain? So, for instance, if we want to do a target with all, I guess, all people with the maxim.com domain, for instance.
That's something that we can imagine, and that's the way we make this module evolve. Just to let you know, we have today some customers that are using it on production, even if you had this beta mentioned. But we are also listening to the needs of our customers. So you saw that the email is not in the list, but it could be part of the custom field, and it could be definitely something that we can use. We are planning to use the gender, the social economic situation, the type of home, and so on. So we have something like maybe 10 more criteria that will come in the near future, and we can imagine, yes, that the email could be one of them.
Okay. So basically, the answer, if I try to rephrase it, so it means that today, I mean, we don't have the criteria for the email, but it will come in the next future.
Yeah.
Thank you. And next question, and probably the last one, I guess, about the real time of targeting. So the question is, new target will work after deployment or in real time? So is the sending of the target is immediate, or I guess, I mean, it should be probably already a Maxim customer. So do we need to redeploy the offers, etc., to really apply the targets?
That's a very good question, because here in my example, I have attached an offer to the target. But keep in mind that you can create a target that is not linked to an offer or to an event, just in order to have this target computed for another software, maybe. And just also to let you know, this target will be computed as it will be scheduled at the first time in the system. So I can create my target, schedule it to be run in the next, let's say, 10 minutes with a frequency. And so each time the target will be computed, it will be reevaluated. So yes, when I do the save and estimate, I have an estimate of the size in order to have it, let's say, in a production mode. I don't have to do any deployment. I just need to set the scheduling of it.
Okay, so again, I'll try to rephrase it. So basically, the two process, so deploying offers and calculating targets are two separate processes. So let's say you have an offer running with a targets with a list of members that will evolve. So the members will evolve each time the target is recalculated without the need to regenerate the offers.
No,
obviously. So,
but when you are creating if you make your offer evolve or your event evolve, definitely you will have to redeploy in order to have the last changes, last updates in the definition of the offer or of the event.
And last bonus question, I would say. Yeah, we just received another one. So let's say that we have a customer listed in several targets. Which offers will be awarded in this case?
Okay. In that case, it will be based. Sorry, the answer for this is that we will definitely trigger offers within the engine. So all the, let's say, level of execution, combination, and rules of best deal will apply definitely in that case. So depending on the interaction the consumer will do within the shop, and if definitely a member of different targets, maybe different offers will be triggered, and in that case, that the rules of the engine that will apply.
Okay, so again, so basically the target is one of the criteria of an offer.
Exactly.
So we can have several offers running at the same time for a single customer. And then obviously, I mean, each offer is evaluated separately from another, so depending on the conditions and priorities. And then obviously, I mean, one member can be in multiple targets and then receive multiple offers if he is eligible to.
Absolutely, and we'll in that way we trigger more than one advantage or one or more coupons and so on. So based on the rules that you have set within your offer and the way you are dealing with the best deal and the level of execution, that's the same thing that you will face when you are dealing with many offers that are triggered at the same time without using the targets. Definitely, the target is a way to add a filter or have more people be eligible to an offer. But after that, the engine, the matching engine will apply the same rules as you have for your offers.
Okay, so thank you, Stefan, and thank you for all the participants, and thank you for the questions, which were interesting. This webinar is now over. We want to make it short, but don't hesitate to contact us, to contact your sales rep in case you need more information. I mean, sales rep or the project manager or the success manager you have for your account. So please take the few minutes to complete the survey you will receive. So it will help us improve the webinars. And next webinars, next webinars will be April 2nd and May 14. And the subjects are vouchers and promo codes for the first one and the team-based programs for the second. So have a good day and talk to you soon. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.